TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here, brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery.
Hi everyone, I'm John Wells. Welcome to the CFL Report on TSN. In Week 15, the Tiger Cats miss Al Bruno horribly. The Argonauts discover quarterback Danny Barrett. And an all-too-familiar story for both Rough Rider teams, another losing weekend. The Bombers clobbered the Tiger Cats to take a commanding 5-point lead in the Eastern Division. A big Argo win leaves the Tiger Cats 3 back in third, and Ottawa remains in an impossible situation. At the top in the West, the Eskimos by 2 on the Lions, and check out the surging Stampeders. They have pulled to within 2 points of second place. The Rough Riders lost to Calgary, a 4-point swing. Saskatchewan now 7 points back in 4th spot. In just a moment, a look back to the highlights from Week 15. First, though, Peter Watts and the CFL Notebook.
Thank you, John. Among some items of interest this week, a cash flow problem in Regina. Fallout remains in Vancouver from the Lions' attempt to force a pay cut on the players. And in Ottawa, quarterback Todd Dillon has to choose between playing for less and not playing at all. First to Regina. Cash flow problems aren't new there, and they're often not life-threatening. In the past, teams have used revenues from next year's advance sale of season's tickets to pay the rest of this year's bills. The concern this fall, though, is that this year on the field hasn't been a very successful one, and that may be reflected in next year's season's ticket sales. The remaining home games at Taylor Field aren't sold out, but a lot of tickets were sold at the Tickathon in June. But unless the advance sale for next year develops and the lottery, which is now underway, produces some more cash, the Riders will have a problem. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, there are reports the Lions players remain upset with the manner in which the board of directors tried to make them take a 10% pay cut. The board finally backed off that idea when the players agreed to take a more active part in the team's marketing program. The best contribution, of course, for the players would be a couple of wins. Lions have been unbeatable at home, but are a woeful 2-5 on the road. And in Ottawa, quarterback Todd Dillon was cut last week, so the Riders wouldn't have to deal with an annual salary of $115,000. After missing Friday's game in Edmonton, Dillon is now re-signed for 25% less.
Yeah, I was probably at the bottom of the barrel, and I didn't feel good about myself or what I was doing, and you know, taking a week off, it does a lot of things to you. You know, I mean, it gets you away from the game, and it makes you a little bit more hungry. I mean, you say, well, do I really want to play? And you start, you know, answering questions to yourself, and you know, I felt good about myself for coming back.
The week's most important injury may be to Lions quarterback Roy DeWalt. He has a painful toe after having it jammed into the carpet at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, and he's doubtful for this weekend's game in Vancouver against Calgary. And kicker Paul Osbaldiston is back in Hamilton after 2 days in hospital in Winnipeg. He was checked out after being whacked by the Bombers' Roy Bennett during a punt attempt that went awry. On a more positive note, Brian Kelly needs just 53 yards to become the all-time leading receiver in total yardage gained in CFL history, the current mark now held by Tommy Scott. And Kelly needs one more 100-plus yard receiving game to give him 40 career games at better than 100 yards in receptions. That mark is also held by Tommy Scott. Can the Hall of Fame be very far away for the great number 70 of the Edmonton Eskimos? I'm Peter Watts. That's CFL Notebook.
Thanks, Peter. Later on the CFL Report, marketing the league. And Leif Pettersson picks the Week 16 winners. In a moment, last week's highlights. Welcome back to the CFL Report. Let's get right to the highlights from Week 15. The BC Lions stumbled again, and the Bombers were awesome. But first to Friday night at Commonwealth in Edmonton, the Eskimos and the Ottawa Rough Riders. Another reasonable start for the Rough Riders. Joe Pow for Gerald Alphen, 19 yards, and that put Ottawa in front 12-10 in the second quarter. The Eskimos responded just over a minute later. Matt Dunnigan teams with slot back Marco Sinkar, a 39-yard touchdown. Edmonton with a slim 17-12 lead at the half. What began as a close game quickly becomes a mismatch. The Eskimos reeled off 17 unanswered points in the third quarter. The big play, 49 yards to Brian Kelly. Edmonton on to a 34-19 victory over Ottawa. Saturday at McMahon Stadium, the Stampeders and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. A key game for both teams. Calgary wide receiver Larry Willis quickly establishing himself as one of the premier pass receivers in the league. Willis hauled in a 16-yard toss from Rick Warman, and the Stamps led 17-3 at the half. The story of this game, the play of the Calgary defense, 3 turnovers, 3 sacks. The Riders held to a meager 129 yards in net offense. Saskatchewan's only touchdown final quarter. Glenn Suter takes off on a fake field goal. Not nearly enough for the Rough Riders. The Stampeders cruise to a relatively easy 28-11 win. First of 2 Sunday games, BC and Toronto. The Argonauts looking for their first win over the Lions since Grey Cup '83. First quarter, all Gil Finnerty. Great run here as Finnerty breaks a couple of tackles and he's gone. 60 yards for the touchdown. The Argos out in front 14-0. Greg Vavra at quarterback for BC. For the injured Roy DeWalt, Vavra a pair of touchdowns to Jim Sandusky. This one tied the game 14-all midway through the third. But it was all Argos from there on. Lance Chilma kicked 4 field goals, and Dan Sellers returned this fumble 42 yards for a touchdown. Make the final in this one, Argos 33, Lions 14. The second Sunday game in Winnipeg, Blue Bombers hosting the slumping Hamilton Tiger Cats. 2 words to describe this one, James Jefferson. The Bomber defensive back started things out by returning a Paul Bennett fumble, 28 yards to give Winnipeg an early 18-5 lead second quarter. Late in the second, Roy Bennett picks off Tom Porras and laterals to Jefferson. Jefferson takes it the rest of the way, 26 yards for another touchdown. And Jefferson teamed up with Greg Battle on a similar play later in the game. Jefferson capped off his spectacular performance by returning a punt 58 yards for a touchdown. This one, his 4th of the game. That's a career high for many defensive backs and more than enough as the Bombers bomb the Tiger Cats 47-14. That's 4 straight losses for the Tiger Cats, 2 for the Lions, and 2 straight victories for the Argonauts. This week it's Hamilton at Saskatchewan. Toronto draws the Ottawa Rough Riders, and the Lions will try and turn it around against the Calgary Stampeders. More on Week 16 coming up with Leif Pettersson shortly. Right now, the TSN players for Week 15.
Friday night in Edmonton, Matt Dunnigan reasserted himself as the Eskimos' #1 quarterback. Against Ottawa, Dunnigan completed 17 of 29 for 310 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed 6 times for 37 yards and another major. Saturday in Calgary, Stampeder running back Kirby Warren sparkled against Saskatchewan. Filling in for Gary Allen, Warren carried the ball 20 times for 131 yards and a touchdown. He also caught a 21-yard pass for a touchdown to help Calgary topple the Western Rough Riders. Sunday in Toronto, Argonaut quarterback Danny Barrett didn't put any big numbers on the board, but his steady play was a big reason for the Argos' win. Barrett completed 19 of 34 for 206 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, but more importantly, he didn't throw any interceptions either. And only one choice from the Bombers game in Winnipeg, defensive back James Jefferson, the game of a lifetime. Jefferson scored 4 touchdowns, 1 on a fumble recovery, 1 on a punt return, and 2 on laterals from teammates. Jefferson's contributions were more than enough to sink the Tiger Cats single-handedly.
Still ahead, TSN's Canadian Player of the Week, and Leif Pettersson, who had 4 winners last week, tries to make it 2 perfect weeks in a row. This is the CFL Report on TSN. Welcome back to the CFL Report on TSN. Still ahead, we preview Week 16 in Canadian football. Right now, the Canadian Stars from Week 15.
This week's runner-up, slot-back Paul Pearson of the Argos. Against the Lions, this 9-year veteran from UBC led all receivers with 76 yards on 6 receptions. Pearson's ability to get open and make the clutch catch helped the Argos get past the Lions. TSN's outstanding Canadian for Week 15, Winnipeg defensive tackle Rob Prodanovic. Against Hamilton, the second-year player from the UFC, came up with his best game of the season. Prodanovic recorded 4 quarterback sacks to go along with 3 tackles. Rob Prodanovic of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, TSN's outstanding Canadian from Week 15.
Marketing professional sports is the art of the 80s. And while the CFL has been widely criticized for doing a poor selling job of its product, there definitely is a marketing plan in Canadian football.
From the 1-yard line.
Marketing football begins on the field. The product is the #1 asset. But beyond the touchdowns and the interceptions, there are ways of building the profile of the league and its teams, chiefly through the team logos. For many years, individual teams handled their own merchandising requirements. That presented some problems in that there were discrepancies in the quality of products, and it was difficult for national accounts to deal with each club. 18 months ago, the decision was made to bring the whole effort under the control of the league office. Dan Fahey was hired from the Edmonton Oilers to direct the project. It took 6 months to get the teams to agree to the concept, and the project was held back even further because of the name change in Montreal and ultimately because the Alouettes finally folded. But now the products are making their way onto the market, and the initial reaction has been favorable.
We obviously have to expand our product line, which is what we're doing right now, to give the buyers more choice and the consumer more choice. As far as the volume of sales, they've been very impressive in the last 2 shows we've been at, and the reaction, hopefully the reaction will stay that way throughout the winter.
All teams generally sell. There's a fan in every province or in every team for every city. And with us, the Argo stuff sells coast to coast. We sell a lot of BC out in Quebec. We sell a lot of Ottawa stuff out in Regina. So there are fans all over. We have no problems with it.
Some 30 licensees now offer about 200 products for sale to the public. Products as diverse as wallpaper, T-shirts, and jackets. And there are plans to bring in more products in the future. As well, there is a desire to merchandise each team across the country, not just in 1 or 2 communities.
It's very difficult to market in Toronto for the Calgary Stampeder products out of a Calgary office, and I think we've made that decision to go nationally, and we'll begin to see it unfold in the very near future.
So far, little revenue has flowed back to the teams from this program. About $2 million worth of merchandise is now in stores across the country. By the time manufacturing costs are subtracted, along with a percentage of sales to the retailer, there isn't much left for the teams. But there is hope that some revenues will be forthcoming next year.
We want to have that feeling no matter where you go, whether you're watching kids playing football on the corner lot or in the park, or whether you're walking downtown or in a shopping mall, you're going to see people with CFL identity there. And I think that that is the most important part of the whole aspect of this marketing and licensing program. Secondly, obviously, to us, over the long term, it's going to provide a substantial amount of revenue. I think that once we get the products on the market, once we create the demand and get the reaction from the public and they know that they're there, then that's also going to provide that additional revenue to the league.
The game of the week in the CFL will be in Winnipeg Thanksgiving Monday. The Blue Bombers and the Eskimos. Last season, it might have been a battle for first place in the Western Division. This year, the showdown will determine the early Grey Cup favorite. To set up the matchup, 2 reports. First from Ken Chillibeck in Edmonton.
Thanks, John. When you talk about trying to prepare for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, I'm sure the first name that comes to most people's mind is their outstanding quarterback, Tom Clements.
You have to swing your shoulders.
And Eskimos head coach Joe Faragelli is more than aware of what Clements can do.
Well, Tom has an uncanny ability to avoid the pressure, and he prefers to roll to his left all the time. Whenever he gets heat, he'll reverse and come out to his left. But I noticed in the last game they started running some dash, where it's a described play where he drops back and it looks like he's scrambling, but actually that's the way it's blocked.
The Eskimos at times this year have had trouble getting out of the blocks. They've had some slow starts. Scoring first and quickly would be a big plus for the Eskimos in Winnipeg.
So if you go there and you get a good start and you stay on top, you seem to control the crowd, and hopefully that's what we can do.
The The Eskimos' defensive coaching staff don't waste much time breaking down Winnipeg's last game. They go through every play.
1st and 10 on the 25.
Then it's over to the TV and videotape machine to take a look at every play.
Well, that's interesting. Who's at the flanker?
73. It's really trips.
It's trips.
No, it's a bounce. Sorry. We go through every play with a fine-tooth comb and try to get formations, alignments. Some teams, for instance, Winnipeg, like to put guys in different positions, and it gives you a read whether you're in zone or man a lot of times. So Tommy's pretty smart that way, and he'll test you before the play actually starts.
It doesn't take long for them to see something a little different that the Bombers' offense is doing.
Yeah, a couple. They're trying to get all their good receivers on one side of the field and putting Iraqi and possibly Vernon Paul or one of the other guys on the other side and get your coverage messed. Get a mismatch is what they're trying to do.
The Eskimos' coaching staff certainly are aware of how tough it is to prepare for a team like the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. One thing on their side is the 9-day break between games. Whether or not that'll be a major benefit, we'll find out on Monday. Ken Chilliback for the CFL Report in Edmonton. Now to Winnipeg with a look at the Blue Bombers. Here's John Bonk.
Thanks, Ken. You know, the Bombers haven't finished first in their division since 1972. They currently hold that position at this point in the season with 20 points, 5 ahead of second-place Toronto. And although they haven't really locked up that bye situation, head coach Mike Riley sure likes his club's chances.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for us. You know, we have a tough road to hoe. We play Edmonton, of course, back-to-back, and then Toronto back-to-back. And Toronto is our #1 competitor for that spot right now. They, you know, are playing good football, and it's going to be tough, but we are in good shape. We control our own destiny. All we have to do is win. We don't have to rely on anybody else, and that's a good position to be in. It doesn't make it any easier, but at least we know where we stand and what we have to do.
The last time these two clubs met, the Bombers turned the ball over a number of times. Tom Clements realizes that you can't do that against a good team and expect to win.
Well, anytime you play a good football team, you don't want to give them anything for free, and so you don't. Consequently, you don't want to turn the ball over. You want to make them earn everything they get, and it's very important to protect the ball. And we realize that going into the game, we're going to have to play a good football game, an error-free game, in order to win.
What are you doing differently or better this time around than, say, the last time you played Edmonton here in Winnipeg?
Well, I think our offense over the past few weeks has just been a little more consistent in what we're doing. We haven't turned the ball over that much. I think when we played Edmonton early in the year, we turned it over quite a few times, and that enabled them to win the game. We also gave up some big plays in other areas of the game, and that's one thing we will have to protect against. You can't give them big plays, and you can't, as I said earlier, give them anything for free.
235-pound nose guard Rob Perdanovic had a superb game against Hamilton, registering 4 quarterback sacks, a performance that might be tough to repeat against the Edmonton Eskimo offensive line.
I don't know. I think I'll do my best to play up to par, and hopefully the coaching staff allow me to play again. But I think last game they keyed on our defensive ends, and things might change this game, as in any game. They always change to suit the team.
Well, it's great fall football weather here in Winnipeg, and it should be a very exciting game come Monday, featuring the 2 #1 teams in the league. John?
All right, joining me now, Leif Pettersson. We'll all carve the turkey on Monday afternoon. Watch the Eskimos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers from Winnipeg. Good game this week, I think.
John, this is the kind of matchup that you hope to get every weekend. The 2 best teams meeting head-to-head, and I really think that Edmonton is playing well, Winnipeg is playing well, and should be just a fabulous game.
Time to blow a little smoke. You had a 4-for-4 week. Perfect in week 14, week 15.
Well, you know, I had a couple of games that could have gone either way. Saskatchewan-Calgary, I took Calgary. They played super, and Toronto upset the BC Lions. Now, in my mind, it wasn't an upset. Toronto is putting together and has put together a darn good football team, and they look great.
What's happened to the Lions?
Well, you know, if you'll recall, when we started this show many, many weeks ago, I picked BC to finish 3rd. So, you know, they're just falling into place nicely.
Stampeders giving a bit of a challenge for second spot.
You know, who would have thought that they could turn their season around like they have, and Larry Koharic give him full marks. He's had that team playing super.
All right, we'll be back to look at winners for week 16 as Leif Pettersson picks them right after this.
October explodes with the CFL action on TSN. A top lineup that includes the Rough Riders, the Argonauts, the BC Lions, and the defending champion Hamilton Tiger Cats. Watch the Ottawa Rough Riders battle the Toronto Argonauts live from Exhibition Stadium in Toronto, Friday, October 16th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. It's action only the CFL delivers. CFL blackouts are in effect, so check your local listings.
Welcome back to the CFL Report on TSN. Time to look ahead to Week 16 with Canada's leading football prognosticator. It says right here in the note you handed me, Leif Pedersen, now at 69%.
Don't lie.
4 for 4 weeks.
69%, good round number, and getting the good picks. But, you know, there's always a couple of games that are easy to pick every weekend, John, and there's always a couple that you maybe have to take a shot at. Last week, the only one game, Toronto-BC, we got it, and the others were routine.
Let's look ahead to this week, and there's an easy pick on Friday night. I think that the grade Sixers will have this one again with Toronto at Ottawa.
Ottawa is brutal. I mean, they are brutal. They can't play with anybody in this league, and every time you play against them, just put the 2 points in the win column, because Toronto's got a good football team, though. You know, it all starts with the offensive line, and these guys are really playing well together, and this is no matchup at all.
No chance for the Ottawa Rough Riders Friday, even at Lansdowne Park. The X is all for the Argos down the left-hand side. And you have even taken away the special teams credit you usually give the Rough Riders and just call that even.
Out of great compassion for Fred Glick, I usually give 1 X to the Ottawa Rough Riders. This week we're going to an even, and next week, who knows?
Who knows? All right.
Yeah.
2 games on Sunday. Number 1 will be Saskatchewan Rough Riders and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Saskatchewan struggling. The Tiger Cats are struggling even more if you look back over the last 4 games. Saskatchewan has at least won in the last couple of weeks.
Saskatchewan, a couple losses in a row. Hamilton, 4. How do you figure Hamilton? I mean, technically on paper they have some quality guys, but you know, I suspect there's so many veterans on that club. Sometimes you get a little complacent. It's that time of the year, early October. It's been a long season, but boy, they got to snap out of it in a hurry, or I suspect some major changes will be made.
Now, you say the Rough Riders struggle when they're not at home, so you're picking the Tiger Cats.
Yeah, you know, Saskatchewan, they haven't won too many games this year, but they've played tough at home, even in some of the games that they've lost. But on the road, they're not a good road club, and Hamilton has to snap out of it sooner or later, so we'll give them the nod.
Leif Pedersen likes the Tiger Cats in this one. The X's all down the right-hand side, with the exception of even in rushing and special teams going to the Saskatchewan Rough Riders. But it will be the Tiger Cats prevailing this weekend at Ivor Wynne.
Well, they need a win, John, and they've got a good team to do it against.
Couple of good games on Sunday, and I think both involve Western teams, or a Western Division matchup, I should say, with Calgary at BC. Now, this is really for second spot in the Western Division right now. At least Calgary can move into a tie.
They can, and like, who would have believed, like, a few weeks ago that Calgary would be up challenging for second place. Now, if you'll recall, I picked them to finish second this year, so this is a crucial game for them, and they played a crucial one last week to get rid of Saskatchewan. They don't have to worry about anybody behind them. Now they go into the Dome, and I think they're ready to play some ball.
You're calling the upset in this one, right?
I am. BC's looked awful. I think they're going to finish third, and Calgary's coming on, and they're at a stage right now where they feel like they can win. They know they can win, and that's a good stage to be at.
Now, on Thanksgiving Monday, it'll be the Eskimos and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers at Winnipeg Stadium, and I think, Leif, you're going to go with the Blue Bombers. You've gone with
absolutely. I know this breaks your heart. You'll be at home. You'll be eating the turkey and with the green jersey on, and you'll be saying, "Go Eskimos."
Donegan had a good week last week.
Well, sure, he had a good week, but the Bombers, they play well at home. They're tough, and they will prevail.
Without question.
Without question. I know this breaks your heart, John, but
we'll see about
Winnipeg
that
at home.
And the BC Lions are due to come back, too, so I'll disagree on 2. That wraps up this week's edition of the CFL Report on TSN. We'll be back in 1 week's time with another one. And thank you very much for watching.
TSN CFL Report. It's our game around here. Brought to you by Carling O'Keefe Brewery.